I'm Jennifer Stapel-Wax. I am an associate professor in the Department of Pediatrics at Emory University. And I am at the Marcus Autism Center, the Director of Infant Toddler Clinical Research Operations. That is a title that doesn't tell you much more than I work with infants and toddlers, but what that role really is to oversee the programs that are taking the important laboratory science that we can do in-house at Marcus and to look at ways to make it community viable, to make the treatments and the screening and diagnosis that we're doing available to all and create equity. And so the large amount of my time is spent doing that. So what I would like to do is just introduce a little bit about Marcus. Some people may know something about Marcus. Marcus Autism Center has been around for a number of years, and so it bears repeating that things have changed a lot in the last 2.5 years. One of the things that has been most pronounced is that we really were an engine. The Marcus Autism Center was an engine of diagnosis and treatment throughout its time in Atlanta, and that's been over 20 years. But about 2.5 years ago, there was this grand desire in the community as well as with Bernie Marcus, the benefactor, to create a hub of clinical science. And in order to do that, they needed somebody who could lead that charge. And they recruited Dr. Ami Klin from Yale University, and he brought with him a cadre of folks as well as recruiting folks who could pick up different pieces of the science, the community outreach, the diagnosis and intervention. That has been a big difference for us because one of the things that we have really turned our face to is not only providing diagnosis and treatment, but also creating very strong public-private partnerships. If Ami were standing right here right now, what he would say to you is that there are no walls in Marcus. We are trying to break those down so that what we do at Marcus is simply a microcosm of what can be done out in the community, that we want to bring that excellent diagnosis and treatment out into the community in a way that is sustainable and viable. The other thing that we're doing is to look into technologies that will help us with early screening and detection. As you heard Georgina speak about, we are not getting to children soon enough in order to make some dramatic changes in their treatment and intervention. If we can get to them at the time when they should be screened, 18 to 24 months, we may see that the interventions that we provide and the types of interventions we provide can dramatically change their course of prognosis and their potential. And maximal access to early intervention. So one of the things that we talk a lot about is that there's this desire for us to move beyond this area where we are now, which is we're trying to focus on reducing associated disabilities with autism. So when children have communication difficulties, when they are having difficulties with adaptive behavior, with severe behaviors, that's what we're coping with. Many of you know we have a severe behavior unit. We do a lot of work with children who are dangerous to themselves or others, and it's impeding their ability to move forward in their potential. What we'd like to do, and in the best case scenario, we can promote language. But what we're hoping is that we can move back that window for change into the early infancy period so that we are alleviating some of the things about autism that make it very difficult to be in mainstream. So children who are having a difficult time being in typical inclusion classrooms, children who may have a difficult time with severe behaviors or communication, all the way to a place where we are preventing the kinds of things that make autism such a devastating diagnosis for children. And that is of tremendous importance to us, so much so that we have linked research all the way through the work we do. So now we have diagnosis and intervention programs that are being highly researched. We also have spread across Georgia with a telemedicine program, which is very important. Families no longer have to drive to Marcus to be seen by a psychiatrist. They can be seen across the telemedicine, which is a wonderful benefit for those who are down in Valdosta or Albany. Care coordination. That is single-handedly one thing that never can get paid for. So it is something that benefactors provide money for, is that our care coordination system, led by a crackerjack director, will take families from the very beginning of their journey all the way through. And that doesn't mean it's only at Marcus. It's people who are working in the area of autism, it's providers, it's families. And also really engaging the community. What ways can we create these really nice partnerships between public and private entities? and do it in the name of research. And so we have increased our teaching and training programs and our research programs, and they focus on many different areas. We're not just in the area of looking at genetics or what causes autism, but also what are we going to do when children are showing signs of unfolding autism. So we do this with collaborations. This is the wonderful thing about working for Dr. Klin, is that he makes friends wherever he goes. If you've ever met Dr. Klin, you will know that he can create partnerships. He puts people together into a room and we make things happen. And it's a very exciting place to be with all of these different partners around the city and outside of Georgia as well. We're also an Autism Center of Excellence. We're very proud of that because it's not easy to do, to get an NIH grant that makes you one of 3 in the country. All of our research, if you notice, is for children who are infants and toddlers. We are really focused on this infant-toddler period because we know that autism is so highly heritable that there's a good chance that children are coming into this world with autism, predisposed to autism. And what we want to do is we want to get to them as soon as possible, and we want to do that in a way that the intervention can make the most impact. So we have visual tracking studies. Many of you may have seen the Nature paper that broke about a month ago. Our eye tracking. We also have vocal engagement studies, as well as the earliest randomized controlled trial for treatment for infants who are 12 months of age. And we're also looking at the African American community. This is one of the things that was very important to the research group as we begin to look at health disparities. And in this study, is multi-site, they're looking at the genetics of African American families with children who have 1 or more children with autism. And we're reaching out into the community and creating partnerships. You're actually going to hear from some of my colleagues about some of the partnerships we've built with looking at professional training, coaching of early intervention providers, coaching of early child care providers, so that they are better knowledgeable about what autism looks like in young children and how to create environments where these children can thrive. And I just also want to call to your attention that if autism is of interest to you, in May there is going to be a huge international meeting. The IMFAR meeting, the International Meeting for Autism Research, is coming to Atlanta, and there will be thousands of people here who are focused in the area of autism, and there'll be something for everyone, between treatments and biological bases and genetic models, animal models. It's very exciting that we'll be hosting it, and I hope if it's of interest to you that you will check out some of the great research that's being done. And I will answer your questions when you write them down.
Yes.
That's right?
Yes.